This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face. You with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game. Talk trash all you want. To me, it's all the same. You won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gonna cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HPT. I'm James Larson, joined by the brains of the operation, Maria Ho. This week, we are outside of Los Angeles, California, at the world's largest poker room right here inside the Commerce Casino.
Commerce has always been one of the premier poker venues in the country for years. Some of the best players in the game have made it out for this week's HPT main event.
That's right, Maria. We had a great turnout here in SoCal. Nearly 600 entries in the main event built a prize pool of just under $850,000. That field has been narrowed down to 9, and now they're all battling for the top spot.
Over $160,000 is going to our winner, and that's a pretty big chunk of change, so I expect all of these players to be on their A game today.
Absolutely. The action is going to be packed on tonight's show, so let's get right to it and take a look at what these players are playing for, as well as everybody's chip counts here at this final table.
A lot of money on the line here. First place is going to take home over $157,000. Second place still in that six-figure range with over $112,000. Third place with $72,000 in change. And for our ninth place finisher, $16,000. That's not a bad payday. And as you can see, Doug has a huge chip lead over the rest of the remaining players. Wes, Alex, Amit, they're all about in that 1.8, 1.9 million range. Jeff Madsen is our short stack with just $1 million in chips. Blinds are at $25,000, $50,000 with a $5K ante.
All right, Maria, the button is on the 4 seat. Under the gun will be Jeff Madsen. We're coming to you from the Commerce Casino. Up top, just over $157,000. Truly life-changing cash. So it's with Jeff here under the gun.
And even though Jeff came into this final table as the short stack, he has so much final table experience that I would not count him out, and I'm sure he's going to make the most of his stack size.
Jeff and Doug both fold over to Alex Greenblatt. Now, Alex, a familiar face on the HPT. We love seeing him at all the events. Wes is going to fold. Jasmine folds. Brett folds now over to Steve. He looks down at ace tray of diamonds.
Steve's on the button here, and he makes it $100,000 to go. He's pretty much going to raise almost any two here on the button. Steve doesn't look like he's one to back down from a little aggression.
Luther's going to fold from the small blind. And now over to Amit.
Amit here in the big blind, and with a ton of experience, looks down at Jack 3 of hearts, so he is going to defend here. I think when you're a really great player post-flop, you could defend a wide range of hands from the blinds.
And the flop is King Jack 4, couple of diamonds.
So Amit here has flopped middle pair of jacks. Steve, though, has the nut flush draw.
Amit's going to check. Action now on Steve with the nut flush draw, like Maria said, and he's going to bet $130,000.
You know, Steve's definitely going to follow that up with a continuation bet, especially with the nut flush draw, but a lot of times Amit can definitely expect Steve to c-bet there a good percentage of the time as well, so I see Amit calling here and seeing what develops on the turn.
And he does just that, makes the call with middle pair, and we go on now to the turn card. Steve looking for that diamond, of course, and the turn card is the 4 of clubs. Nothing for Steve. Now 2 pair for Amit, Maria.
And Amit checks once again to Steve. I think Amit should feel a little bit better about the strength of his hand now that the board has paired. Let's see if Steve wants to take a free card with his nut flush draw, or if he's going to go for the semi-bluff here on the draw again.
Both players are going to check, so we now go to the river. And the river card, another 4, this time the 4 of hearts, so a full house for Amit. He's got 4s full of jacks. He bets here, obviously, right, Maria?
Yeah, I think Amit's probably going to go for a value bet here. Now that Steve checked back the turn, Amit should feel pretty good about his hand. And the only reason why he would check here over to Steve is if he's giving Steve a chance to bluff at it. But it looks like Amit is going to go for that value bet.
So Amit bets 300,000 chips. Now action over to Steve. Now, Maria, can Steve make this call?
You know, if Steve feels like Amit might have some kind of busted draw himself, flush draw, straight draws from the flop, then I think he might try to look him up with ace high, and he does. And, you know, I don't really blame him for this call, but at the same time, it's early on in the final table. I don't know how much dynamic goes into play before this, but he obviously didn't believe Amit.
And Amit is the winner of the hand as Steve sees his fours full of jacks and a just over $1 million pot for Amit. So a nice size pot for him. It's time to step aside for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more exciting HPT final table action. Welcome back to the HPT. It's James Larson and Maria Ho. We are right outside of Los Angeles, California this week at the beautiful Commerce Casino. Let's head right back to final table action.
Doug Lee is still the chip leader with about the same stack as he had before. And Amit has moved into the second spot, taking that big pot down right before the break. We have two people on the short stack, Jeff Madsen and Steve Ayub, both with 19 big blinds.
Have you played some poker with a lot of these guys, Maria?
Yeah, anytime we have a Commerce final table, I always recognize a few faces. Commerce is definitely one of those places where all the pros come out to play.
And it's a place that you really cut your teeth. This is kind of where you got your start.
Yeah, I grinded cash games at Commerce till 5, 6 in the morning on multiple nights, let me tell you.
Blinds are 25,000, 50,000 with a 5K ante. Under the gun, first to act will be Alex Greenblatt. We talked about this before, a very familiar face on the HPT, Maria. Wesley's going to fold. Jasmine folds, as does Brett and Steve. And now we're over to Luther. And now we go to Amit on the button. He looks down at ace 9.
No doubt Amit is going to open this hand from the button, but he's got two tough people to contend with in the blinds here, Jeff Madsen and Doug Lee. Probably not going to let too much get by them.
And Amit does raise now to 100,000 chips, and we move over to Jeff Madsen.
And Jeff with ace-queen suited here, and his 19 big blind stack is definitely going to 3-bet shove, and Amit might actually call here.
Doug Lee gets out of the way. Boy, when Jeff shoves all in, he doesn't have a fear in the world. Look at this guy. You talk about a poker face. No fear for Jeff Madsen.
And you know, this is a definite standard shove for Jeff, and I don't blame Amit for calling. Jeff probably has a pretty wide range here to shove 20 big blinds from the small blind. He has fold equity. He knows that, and he knows Amit's raising a lot from the button. So this is a pretty standard situation.
And the flop is king, king, jack. So Jeff still in the lead with his ace-queen of spades, looking to double up and keep his tournament hopes alive.
Jeff's kicker still plays at the moment, but with the turn as a king, there's definitely a few more chop outs now.
So we go now to the river card. And that river card is the 10 of clubs. So the double up will be complete for Jeff Madsen, keeping his tournament hopes alive. And you don't want to give a guy like that a whole lot of chips, Maria, because he's very dangerous.
No, you definitely don't. And that's just kind of an unfortunate situation for Amit here. It's pretty standard for him to call, but unfortunately Jeff had him dominated. And now Jeff is going to double up to almost 40 big blinds, which gives him a huge opportunity here to do really well at this final table.
Have you played a lot of poker with Jeff Madsen over the years?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff and I have been friends for a long time, and you know, Jeff has had a lot of success at the World Series of Poker with 3 bracelets, but Amit is also a very experienced player as well. So even though Amit did lose a decent portion of his stack there, I still say this is anybody's game.
And we talked about it before. Up top for the winner, just over 157,000 in cash.
Blinds are moving up to 30,000 and 60,000 with a 10K ante.
Coming to you from the Commerce Casino right outside of Los Angeles. And Maria, we've just had a lot of fun this week. It's always fun to be back here in Southern California here at the Commerce Casino.
Buttons on Doug Lee in this hand, so Jasmine starts us off folding from under the gun. And Steve looks down at pocket queens and moves all in. And even though Steve has such a strong hand with 9 big blinds, he really has no choice but just to open shove his entire stack.
And now it's folded around to Jeff Madsen. He looks down at Big Slick, Ace King, and he's going to make the call of 505,000 chips.
The blinds are going to get out of the way here, so it looks like we are going to go heads up here with Steve's tournament life on the line this time around. It's funny how your positions can change. 1 minute Jeff's tournament life is on the line, and now he's calling somebody to eliminate them.
That's poker, Maria, especially here on the HPT. So we do go to the flop. Steve trying to keep his tournament hopes alive. The flop is Jack, 7, Jack, couple of spades.
So Steve is still in the lead here with his overpair to the board. And now what was a coin flip before the flop now sees Steve with almost an 80% chance to win this pot with 2 cards to come. And the turn card is the king of clubs, and this is how fates can change in poker. Jeff has now a huge lead here with hitting his 6-outer on the turn. As you can see with the graphic, he's a 95% favorite to win this hand.
Unbelievable. Steve's just thinking, man, here was my chance to double up. The king of clubs comes on the turn, and now the deuce of spades on the river, so that is going to do it. Jeff will eliminate Steve, and just kind of a tough way to go out of this tournament for Steve.
Definitely. It was looking great for Steve on the flop, but unfortunately, he is going to be our 9th place finisher, taking home $16,000. Not a bad payday, but I'm sure he wishes that he could still be in for that $157,000 top prize.
And Jeff Madsen smiling there. Down to 8 players at this HPT nationally televised final table. Don't go too far. More action after these messages. Welcome back to the HPT. It's James Larson and Maria Ho. We are in Los Angeles, California at the Commerce Casino, and so far we're seeing some pretty great poker.
Yeah, definitely. I have expected this kind of poker to be played not only at Commerce, but by these players. We've had people with millions of dollars in cashes, so I'm looking forward to what they have next in store.
Well, let's head right back to the final table action.
And with 8 players remaining, Doug Lee has over $5 million in chips. Jeff Madsen and Amit behind him with almost $3 million. And on the short stack, Wes, Jasmine, and Luther, they're all kind of in that shoving range soon, so they're going to be looking for a hand to go all in with.
Speaking of short stacks, Jeff Madsen was there when we started. Now he's second in chips, and just not a guy you want to have with a whole lot of chips, because I've said it before, he's a very dangerous poker player.
Blinds are still at 30,000, 60,000 with a 10K ante.
Under the gun is Doug Lee. He's going to fold. Now over to Alex Greenblatt. He looks down at Ace King.
And Alex has about 30 big blinds here, so I'm sure he's just going to go for a raise.
And he is. He's going to raise it to 125,000 chips. Now over to Wes. In the 1 seat, Wes is going to fold. Jasmine folds from the 2. Brett, he's going to fold in seat number 3.
Action is on Amit. Doesn't want to play. Jeff Madsen always looks like he might want to play, though. So he's thinking about it here in the big blind.
And Jeff is going to make the call as he looks down at Ace 9.
They're making the eye contact.
Looks like the players are starting to talk a little bit. They're starting to loosen up, Maria. Always kind of a weird thing to play on television for some of these people who haven't played a whole lot of TV final tables.
The flop is Queen 9-3 Rainbow. So Jeff has actually out-flopped Alex here, pairing up his 9, and he goes ahead and checks it over.
Now over to Alex Greenblatt, who I've always said is just kind of one of the nice guys of poker. He's always got a smile on his face when you see him at the events, and he definitely knows how to play the game. And he's going to go ahead and make a wager of 150,000 chips. Maria, do you like that bet?
Yeah, I think it's a standard continuation bet here, and obviously if Jeff doesn't have a piece, he's probably going to just let it go out of position. But Jeff does have a piece, and I do see him calling here.
And he does just that. Jeff makes the call of 150,000 chips. Turn card now is the 3 of hearts.
And I think if Jeff decides to check it over to Alex again, I see Alex checking back. I think he has some showdown value. I don't feel like there are many draws on that flop, so he might feel like Jeff is probably not going to go away with a turn bet.
But it looks like Alex decides to bet. He's going to make a 250,000 chip bet. And now action over to Jeff Madsen.
And a lot of times I think players will call again on the turn here with a hand like Jeff's, hoping just to get to showdown on the river. I don't think he would like it if he was faced with a river bet by Alex.
And he is going to lay it down. He folds. And the winner of the hand is Alex Greenblatt.
Well, sometimes 2 barrels does it in poker, and for Alex, betting both the flop and the turn there, actually got Jeff to lay down the best hand.
Blinds 30,000, 60,000 with a 10K ante. The button is on the 9 seat, so under the gun will be Brett in seat number 3. Brett's going to fold. Now we move over to Luther in the 5 seat.
Luther is our shortest stack right now with 13 big blinds.
Luther looking now to grab some chips now. And he's going to go ahead and raise it to 150,000 as he wakes up with pocket aces, Maria.
And obviously, even though you do have a short stack, you're not going to just open shove 13 big blinds with aces. And it looks like he's got Doug to bite here, calling with King Jack offsuit.
Amit and Jeff both folding, but like Maria said, Doug does make the call. King Jack. Alex is going to get out of the way. Now we move over to Wes in the 1 seat. 10-9 offsuit.
You know, because it's just a little bit over a min raise, you might get somebody in the blinds to call, but no, the blinds do let it go. Honestly, I'm always really suspicious when someone has a pretty short stack and they just raise. Sometimes people raise fold off of short stack, but sometimes people have a huge hand like aces, so you got to be careful.
And the flop is 8, King 9, a couple of clubs. The ace is still in the lead, but Doug does pair up his king.
And this is kind of the worst case scenario for Doug, because now that he has a piece, I'm sure he's going to give Luther maximum action here.
And Luther is going to check there, Maria. Very interesting.
And Doug decides to bet 645,000, effectively putting Luther all in, and Luther quickly calls. I can't believe that really worked, though. I mean, I guess it worked because Doug did have top pair, but it looks like Luther just played him like a fiddle here. But sometimes when you get aces on the short stack, you know, it's tough for your opponents to get away from their hand.
Luther loving the way this hand is playing out thus far as he's ahead as we now go to the turn card. Luther trying to keep his tournament hopes alive here at this HPT event. Turn card, Maria, the 3 of clubs, so Luther's still in the lead.
And neither player has a club in their hand, so Doug is looking for a king or a jack on the river to eliminate Luther. Otherwise, he's going to double up Luther, and you know what? Ace is holding up. I like to see that. I'm not going to lie. I'm always a fan rooting for the best hand.
And the river card, the 8 of clubs, so Luther will win the hand and double up. The aces hold up at this final table. All right, Maria, well, it's time to step aside here real quick because we're seeing some very exciting final table action. But earlier in the week, I got a chance to talk to Phil Collins. Now, he's a young guy with a very bright future and a very good poker player. It was good to catch up with him.
Reporting from the Commerce Casino, another big HPT event going on here. Phil Collins joins us. You're about ready to jump in. What's been going on with you these days?
Not too much. Lifting a bunch of weights and playing some golf lately. Haven't played too much live poker, but this is a perfect event to drive down from Vegas and give it a shot to win 6 figures.
Yeah, a lot of players have been talking about this. You know, the series right around the corner. To roll into LA and take home over 100,000 would be awesome.
Oh yeah, I want to play a lot of events this summer, but I can't really stretch the bankroll on some of the thin ones. But if I've got an extra 100 grand in my pocket, then maybe it'll give me a better shot at having a really good summer. So hopefully we can parlay this into even more success.
And some of you will remember Phil, of course, from his final table where you actually won an HPT event. That was in Vegas in 2011. You ran great that week.
Yeah, it was the first event I had played, but it was a great structure. And sometimes when you have a really nice structure, the better players get to use their skills and rise to the top. And I thought that I was able to play really well that tournament, and I won it.
And it's nice being out here in Southern California because this Commerce, it's a great place, it's a great poker room, and they've got an awesome staff here.
Yeah, I'm here with my buddy B. Hanks, and if one of us busts, we're definitely going to stay and probably play some cash games downstairs, and then hopefully I'll watch the other one have success. But yeah, great place to play poker. Great city to be in as well.
Phil Collins, one-time WSOP November 9er, and he's also made an HPT final table. No doubt we'll see him around on the circuit. Come back for more exciting final table poker action from Commerce Casino here with the HPT. Still 8 players left here at the final table from Commerce Casino. Let's get right back to the action. Doug Lee is still our chip leader here, and Jeff and Amit still right on his tail. Both players looking to overtake him. Jasmine, Brett, and Wes are still contending with their short stacks.
Life-changing cash up top, as always here on the HPT. Just over $157,000. Blinds are 40,000, 80,000 with a 10K ante. The button is on the 8th seat, so under the gun will be Jasmine Maria with the do-rag on.
And Jasmine hasn't really gotten involved too much so far, but she probably hasn't picked up any hands. You know, one thing I will say, playing a lot at Commerce, I see a lot of female poker players there. They are not afraid to get in the mix, and I love that about playing in LA.
Well, Jasmine's not going to play this hand. She folds. Brett's going to go ahead and raise it up to $160,000 with Queen Jack of Diamonds, a hand that I like to play from time to time.
Yeah, and Brett, you know, with 16 big blinds, he's definitely trying to just probably take down the blinds here. If he does get a caller, he's probably not going to be too upset because his hand does flop well. But if he were just to pick up the blinds and antes with his short stack, he'd be real happy about that too.
Luther and Amit both folding. Now over to Jeff Madsen, who wakes up with pocket aces.
And you know, Jeff doesn't 3-bet here with aces and chooses to slow play them because he knows that Brett does have the stack where he's probably not going to call a 3-bet light here. And so Jeff wants to get more action from his aces and get more value from his hand.
And Wes is going to make the call with Queen 4 clubs.
So Wes decides to defend the big blind here against the min raise of Brett. And now 3 ways to the flop.
And the flop is Deuce, Queen, 5, Rainbow.
So both Wes and Brett have flop top pair here, but of course, as you can see, Jeff slow playing his aces pre-flop. He's still way ahead.
This hand could really spell a lot of trouble for Wes and Brett, as they both, like you said, got a piece of that flop with the Queen. Both Wes and Brett check over to Jeff. You see a bet here now from Jeff Madsen, Maria?
Yeah, I think he definitely doesn't want to take this 3 ways to the turn still. So, of course, he's going to bet, protect his hand, get some value from his aces, hope that his opponents have a piece so that they could call him.
And he is reaching for chips, and he does just that. He's going to bet 180,000 chips into this pot. So, you know, an interesting play here now for Wes, because he did hit his Queen, but he's got a bad kicker. Do you see him making this call?
Yeah, I definitely see Wes calling. And, and actually, Wes decides to just check raise all in, which, wow, that might actually give Brett a chance to get away from his hand. Brett also has a short stack, and I think he wanted to do that. But instead, Wes is going to save Brett's tournament life here by making the all-in play before him.
And Wes is going to realize, Maria, he just ran right into a buzzsaw here of the aces of Jeff, and Jeff really played that hand perfectly with his pocket aces.
Wes is looking for a queen or a 4 in order to survive. We saw that Brett had a queen in his hand.
We talk about table demeanor. Wes looks a little nervous right now as he's standing, he's pacing, and an ace of spades on the turn.
And now Wes is drawing dead here. Wes cannot hit any cards to help him. The river is just for show at this point. Jeff is going to eliminate Wes here in 8th place.
Yeah, I think Wes still doesn't know what happened. I think he's smiling there a little bit. The deuce of hearts comes onto the river, so the full house, the winning hand for Jeff. And that's going to eliminate Wes here at this HPT nationally televised final table.
Wes takes home $21,000 and change for his efforts. You know, I always like to see somebody smiling after they bust out. You won a lot of money, you had a good time, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, and we saw Wes all weekend long, and that's the way he looked. He was always pretty upbeat and happy, and he was just happy he made it to this HPT final table. But congratulations to him going out in 8th place.
Jeff looks a little bit happier than Wes, though, because he's stacking his chips. 7-handed now at this final table.
Blinds are 40,000, 80,000 with a 10K. Button is on the 5 seat, so under the gun here will be Doug Lee in seat number 8. He looks down at ace-9 of clubs.
Doug Lee looks like he's going to raise it up here. And Doug's never been afraid to get in the mix. From my experience playing with Doug, you know, he likes to be involved. He's fairly active.
And he's going to raise it to 160,000 chips with his ace-9 of clubs. Alex is going to get out of the way. Now over to Jasmine. Jasmine folds, as does Brett. Now we're over to Luther on the button. Luther's going to fold. Amit folds from the small blind. Now to Jeff in the big blind. Jeff's having a pretty good day.
He is.
He's having a real good day.
He came from the short stack to being second in chips, I believe, now. Picked up aces, got some good action. Everything's going Jeff's way so far. And he does make the call here from the big blind, defending with queen 10 offsuit.
The flop is 4, 10, 7, a couple of clubs. Jeff pairs his 10s, Maria, and he's going to check.
And Doug, with the nut flush draw and an overcard to the board, is going to continuation bet, making it $185,000 to go.
Over to Jeff now. Like we said, he pairs his 10s, as you can see. Does he make the call here, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's going to at least call. I think maybe he's also contemplating check raising here as well.
That, and we just talked about it, he's having a very good day. He's running very well, and things are going great for Jeff Madsen here at this HPT final table. So he does make the call. We now go to the turn card. It's the 7 of spades. So now Jeff with 10s and 7s, and he'll be first to act.
And Jeff decides to check again. And now Doug decides to check back, wanting to see a free card here.
And now we go to the river card. It is not a club, Maria. It is the 4 of hearts. So Jeff with 10s and 7s, he's first to act.
And, you know, this is a similar situation to the one between Amit and Steve earlier where, you know, we might see Jeff go for value here, and Doug might pay him off with ace high just because there are a lot of missed draws from the flop.
Jeff is going to make a bet, 325,000 chips. So over to Doug now.
And obviously, Jeff feels fairly certain he has the best hand, and he's just hoping Doug has a hand he could call with. And, you know, this is a tough spot for Doug. I feel like Doug sometimes can be a non-believer, so I wouldn't be surprised if he makes this call and looks him up with ace high.
Pot size of just over 1 million here, Maria, and action on Doug to make the call, 325,000. And he is going to make the call, and he's going to see that he loses his hand as Jeff flips over his queen 10 for 10s and 7s. Do you like that call there with the ace 9?
You know, I don't mind because I think that Jeff is definitely capable of bluffing in this spot. But sometimes, given the way the hand was played, I think you have to give Jeff a little bit more credit for having value here. We've got 7 players remaining, a lot of experienced players here at this final table, so no doubt there will be a ton of action to come. Come back for more from Commerce Casino.
This episode of HPT is brought to you by Double Down Casino. Get started today with 1 million free virtual chips by visiting www.doubledowncasino.com. Enter promo code HPT for Double Down. That's promo code HPT for Double Down. You can also find Double Down Casino on Facebook, iOS, or Android stores. As we report from the Commerce Casino right outside of Los Angeles, California. 7 players remain, Maria, and really, it's anybody's game.
We have a new chip leader. Jeff Madsen has overtaken the top spot with over 5.3 million. Doug Lee still holding strong, even though he slipped back a bit, just under 4 million. Amit has 2.6 million, and Brett Murray is the only player left with under $1 million in chips.
And with these 7 players remaining, the min cash now just under 27,000. Blinds are 40,000, 80,000 with a 10K ante. The button is on seat number 6, so under the gun will be Alex Greenblatt. Alex is going to fold, as does Jasmine. Now over to the 5 seat of Luther.
Now action is on Amit here. You know, I really like watching Amit play. He is very calm and collected, but he definitely is a thinking player. You can tell that he takes his time with every decision, and when I see someone do that at the poker table, I'm always fearful of that player.
And Amit is going to raise it up to 160,000 chips with King 9. Jeff's going to get out of the way. And now over to Doug Lee in the big blind, and he's going to make the call with his suited connector, Jack 10 of diamonds.
It's definitely a pretty hand to defend with. There are a lot of possibilities with a hand like that.
And now we go to the flop. 8, queen, tray, a couple of spades. First to act will be Doug.
So Doug here has flopped a gut shot straight draw. Amit, though, has not connected with this board.
Doug checks. And Amit checks as well.
And I think that's a good check back by Amit. I think that that's the kind of board where it hits a lot of Doug's range. So, you know, seeing a turn card is not a bad idea there.
Turn card is the deuce of clubs. And Doug is reaching for chips. And he's going to bet 185,000.
And the thing is, when Amit checks back, you could expect Doug to bet the turn a lot of the time, whether he has a hand or not. So it'd be interesting to see what Amit decides to do here.
And Amit is going to make the call of 185,000 chips. Go to the river. River card, the ace of spades. Be interesting to see what Doug does here, Maria.
And, you know, given this river card and Amit checking back the flop and calling the turn, you might see Doug not wanting to continue with this bluff because that card might have hit Amit on the river. But at the same time, Doug knows that he needs to continue with his bluff here on the river if he wants to win, because after all, he only has Jack high here.
It's an 800,000 chip pot. And Doug is going to bet, and he bets 275,000 chips.
Now that's a very interesting bet size. He bets a little under a third of the pot here. And, you know, it kind of looks like he wants Amit to call. It kind of looks like he's not bluffing and he's going for value. So, you know, that's actually going to work here. And I think that's a good play. I think the sizing's good. I think the river definitely could have given Doug a flush. So I think it was a good bluff by Doug there to continue here.
We're definitely seeing some good poker, Maria, at this final table. Some textbook poker as Doug takes down that pot of just over 1 million chips. And the action continues from the Commerce Casino right outside of Los Angeles, California. Button is on the 9 seat of Alex. So under the gun will be Luther.
And Luther hasn't played a ton of hands at this final table. He's just been picking his spots wisely. And honestly, with Amit and Jeff to his left, I would probably be playing a little bit on the tighter side as well.
Folded around now to Doug Lee in the 8th seat. And Doug is going to raise it up to 225,000 as he looks down at 2 red aces. Alex on the button looks down at 9 deuce of diamonds. He folds. And Jasmine, now she's all in as she looks down at 2 red fives.
And unfortunately for Jasmine, it's just bad timing here. She just ended up having a spot where actually I don't mind her shove. Unfortunately for her, Doug just has such a huge hand here.
She finally gets a hand that she can play, and she runs it right into aces. You know, a little success story about Jasmine. She only has $240 invested in this event. She goes out now, she'll take home just under $27,000, but she's hoping to hit one of the remaining 2 fives left in the deck.
And the flop is King 8 for Rainbow. So unfortunately for Jasmine, she did not flop a set here. Her odds are getting worse and worse for her to double up. But like you said, she's going to get a great return on her investment. She should be very, very happy. She just didn't have the cards today. Still 2 cards to come, though.
Yeah, as we know, Maria, it's never over until it's over. The King of Hearts is the turn card. So now just one last chance for her to catch one of those remaining fives.
I never get too comfortable no matter what happens until the pot is actually pushed my way. I never feel good about it.
Aces are faring well today, though, at this HPT final table. And we now go to the river. It's another king. So the full house for Doug, and that will eliminate Jasmine. So she's going to go out in 7th place, like I said, taking home just under $27,000.
Jasmine, though, taking her elimination with grace here. And you know what? I got to say, I feel like we're going to see more of Jasmine.
Absolutely. She's going to have a nice payday here at this HPT final table. And she'll shake the hands of everybody and make her exit. So congratulations to Jasmine. Just under $27,000 for her.
With 6 players left and all of them great players and very experienced, it's sure to get interesting. You don't want to miss it. Come back to this final table from Commerce Casino with the HPT.
Welcome back to the HPT. Only 6 players remain at this nationally televised final table. Let's head back down and pick up the action.
Amit is still healthy with $2.2 million. And our short stack here is Brett Murray with $835,000.
Min cash now at this final table, just under $33,000, but up top, just over $157,000. As we are 7-handed here at this HPT nationally televised final table, coming to you from the Commerce Casino. Blinds and antes going up. We're now at $50,000, $100,000 with a $15K ante.
And now I think Amit might be thinking, did I fold the best hand that other time? But, you know, you got to stay in the moment in poker and try not to think too much about, 3-4 hands ago.
The button is on Jeff, so first to act will be Brett in the 3 seat.
And Brett on the short stack here with Queen 9 offsuit. He's going to raise to $525,000, basically committing his stack.
Luther's going to fold. Amit folds.
So Jeff knows that if he wants to play this hand, he will be putting Brett all in here. Brett only has 150,000 or so behind.
And Jeff is going to fold. Doug Lee folds from the small blind, and now Alex in the big looks down at ace-jack.
Pretty sure Alex here, who's also fairly short himself, is going to have to go with this hand, put Brett all in.
And that's exactly what he does. And Brett is going to quickly make the call. And Maria, we flip over the cards. Alex with ace-jack going up against Brett's queen nine. Brett doesn't look real happy.
60-40.
It's Brett's tournament life on the line here, but it is a huge chunk of Alex's stack if he were to lose this hand.
And we go to the flop. It is tray 10-9 rainbow.
Unfortunately for Alex, his ace-jack has been out-flopped here by Brett. But Alex can still overtake this hand with an ace or a jack on the turn or the river.
Gosh, these guys just really show little or no emotion, Maria. It's unbelievable.
And that's what you got to do. If you're playing this game for a living, you have to take the emotion out of it. And you know what? Well, here's some emotion
there
from
we
him,
go.
though. Jack of hearts on the turn. Alex is pretty happy to see that card. That puts him back in the lead in this hand. All smiles now, but you know what? He still has to fade the river. Brett has an open-ended straight draw also with his pair.
And the river card is the 6 of clubs, so no mas for Brett. Maria, Alex is going to win the hand, and Brett is eliminated.
But you know, Brett's only 25, so I'm sure he's very happy to take home $32,000. That could buy a lot for a 25-year-old.
Yeah, a nice payday for Brett. There he's smiling a little bit. Brett going out in 6th place with just under $33,000.
All right, let's step away from this exciting final table for A Poker Life with Doyle Brunson, brought to you by Double Down Casino. Get started today with 1 million free virtual chips by visiting www.doubledowncasino.com. Enter promo code HPT for Double Down. That's promo code HPT, the number 4, Double Down. This week on A Poker Life with Doyle Brunson, we get to talk to Doyle about a cheater he knew back in the day by the name of Captain John. Nowadays, in a casino environment, we all feel a little bit safer. We know we're probably not getting cheated, but back then, I'm sure it was a little bit harder to figure that out.
Well, Captain John was a retired riverboat captain, and he had a lot of connections in the South. And so he said, I've got this guy down in Bill, Alabama. But anyway, he said, this guy runs the bar, got a lot of money, likes to play. And he likes to play good players. And I'll take a piece of him, and you go down and play him. I said, okay. I got to the bar kind of late, and Captain John was there, and he said, well, why don't you get a good night's rest and play tomorrow? I'll play tonight, and you can take a piece of me in the poker game. I said, okay. I'll never forget, I took 50% of him. Now, here again is the difference in the thinking about the honor, and I mean, he had steered me down there for this guy to beat me. This guy was a cheater, and he was going to beat me, and John was going to be in with the other guy. But I put in with John that night, and instead of losing money to him, which I couldn't even question because I was asleep, he won that night. I remember he won like $7,000 or something. And he said, here's your $3,500, you know. Which, okay, thanks, good. I started playing this guy, and he was a cheater, but he played something that I was familiar with. It was called playing a light. And they put a little piece of glass or something on their hand as they deal. They bring the card back and deal it, and they can see it, and so they know what you've got. Well, I think, Slim had showed me that trick years before. So I woke up right away that that's what was happening. And when he dealt, I just got out. And then I would play on my deal, and I would beat him. So I was beating this guy with him cheating me, which, is really gives you a sense of satisfaction. And but he also woke up that I knew, and he quit. And so I left town, and that was the end of that.
Well, Maria, it's one of my favorite parts of this program is when we catch up with the legend Doyle Brunson, the Texas Dolly, another great story, and you can find him each and every week right here on the HPT, and it's all brought to you by our friends at Double Down Casino. Visit www.doubledowncasino.com and receive your exclusive HPT bonus offer of 1 million virtual chips. Enter promo code HPT for Double Down. That's promo code HPT for Double Down. You can also find Double Down Casino on Facebook, iOS, or Android. Don't go too far. More exciting HPT action right around the corner. Welcome back to the HPT. It's James Larson and Maria Ho coming to you from the Commerce Casino. 5 players remain up top. Maria, the champion, will go home with just over $157,000 in cash.
And with 5 players left, you see Doug and Jeff have been battling it out for who's going to be the chip leader. Now it's Doug Lee back on top with over $5 million. Jeff right behind him with $4.9 million. Ahmed in the $4 million club as well. And Luther Quach with 10 big blinds here is our short stack.
Obviously, Doug and Jeff at the top with the chip counts, but who do you like taking down this HPT title?
You know, I gotta say, both Jeff and Ahmed, not only do they play a great game, but they have the most experience out of everybody at this final table. So my money's on them, but don't count out Alex. Obviously, we've seen him at our HPT final table before, and, you know, we've seen Jeff come back from the short stack, so, you know, Luther definitely has a shot, too.
Blinds 50,000, 100,000 with a 15K ante.
Interesting that all the 5 players are all sitting
Right.
to the right side of the screen here. Looks like all the chips just gravitationally swung their way. Button starts on Doug Lee here this hand.
Now over to Jeff Madsen. Love following Jeff on Twitter. He's always got something to say, this guy.
Jeff is a funny guy. You wait until you hang out with Jeff in person, have a few drinks, and he's hilarious.
Well, he's going to raise it up to $225,000 with Ace Queen of Hearts. Another fun hand just to look down. Ace Queen of Hearts.
And Doug Lee right behind him, reaching for chips.
Doug from the button is going to re-raise to $560,000, Maria, with 8-7 of spades. It's interesting.
I feel like Doug is 3-betting here, trying to assert some dominance over Jeff. He does have position on Jeff, and Jeff and him are battling it out for the chip lead, and I think Doug's kind of trying to say, don't be raising light, because I'm going to come and 3-bet right after you.
I got a feeling we're going to see some fireworks down the stretch here at this HPT nationally televised final table. Over to Jeff Madsen, now $335,000 to make the call, and he does. So it's Ace-Queen up against Doug's 8-7 of spades.
And the flop is Jack 10-6 Rainbow, so neither player has connected with this flop, but Jeff has a gut shot straight draw for Broadway, and Doug also has a gut shot straight draw.
Jeff is going to check. Now over to Doug.
And I think I like to see a continuation bet here from Doug. He is the pre-flop aggressor, and he does have some possibilities with this flop as well. He has a backdoor flush draw to go with his gut shot straight draw here.
And Doug is going to bet 525,000 chips. Over to Jeff, and it looks like Jeff's going to make the call.
And I think depending on the turn card, there's plenty of opportunities for Jeff to probably take away this pot from Doug.
And now we go to the turn card. The turn card, the 5 of hearts.
Now that's a great card for Jeff. He's improved to a backdoor flush draw to go with his gut shot straight draw. He also has 2 overs to the board. So it'd be interesting to see if Jeff wants to check here and maybe check raise Doug, or if he wants to bet.
Both players checking now. Interesting. Doug with an open-ended straight. And the river card, the deuce of hearts. So the flush is made for Jeff. As you can see by the graphic, he's 100% to win the hand.
And you know, Doug doesn't have anything to call Jeff here with, so unless Doug wants to make a play of raising here on the river, I don't see anything else happening other than Jeff taking this pot down with a bet here.
And Jeff does bet 1,125,000 chips, and Doug just knows he's going to fold here, but he's going to fold when he wants to.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't want to give Jeff any indication that he was 3-betting him light pre-flop here. So he's going to take some time and think about it, but, you know, he's got to let this hand go.
And he does just that. So Jeff Madsen is going to win that hand, a pot of over 3 million chips. Jeff Madsen, 3 World Series of Poker bracelets, a very well-accomplished poker pro. All right, with that hand, Maria, it is now time for us to say goodnight for tonight. We started with 9, and now we're down to final 5. And I always like to ask the brains of the operation, the professional poker player, what did you think of the play at tonight's final table?
Well, when you come to a place like Commerce, you could always expect a lot of great players to show up, high caliber play, and that's exactly what happened at this final table. We have a lot of professionals here with a lot of final table experience, so I've really enjoyed watching them battle it out.
Join us next time as we have the conclusion from right here outside of Los Angeles, California at the Commerce Casino. Now, if you're watching this and you think you can play at this HPT nationally televised final table, well, why not give it a shot? You can check out our webpage at www.hptpoker.com. For Maria Ho, I'm James Larson, and we'll see you at the final table.
But I'll take you down. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack on cry to your mama, cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.